All right, guys. Thanks for everybody
All right.
joining. Um, I'm gonna go over a few things on appraisal, and I want to get a lot of your input as well, and see where you guys, feel that you need help. I know that the thing I struggle with, even as an appraiser, is a lot of times there's a million comps. So some neighborhoods have more sales than others. Like you do, sometimes you do an appraisal on a $10 million house and you think it's more complex, and it's actually easier because there's less sales to pick from. There's only so many houses that have sold over 5 million in an area. So when you have the average price range 350s, 300s, 400s, you have so many comps, and it's about narrowing it down. Um, right now, the market, obviously there's still deals closing, um, but there's a lot of talk about where the market's going. You have recession, you have all these notions going out. So it's good for you to know how, right now there's nobody can say the market's declining because there's not enough data. It could have slowed down in the last week, but an appraiser's not going to put declining on any reports. They're not going to put anything because even as appraisers, sometimes we're the last ones to notice. But there are things that I look at to see where the market's at. One of the things that I look at is active listings. So if you're right now going to pick up a listing, I would look at closed sales, but I would really look at active listings to see where you need to be priced at, because that's going to tell you where the market's going to be at. If you're listing it, if you're in a house, if you're in a, let's say, a condo, and you have 2 bedroom, they're all very similar, um, and you have a closed sale for 200, and you're gonna pick up a listing now, and you're thinking about listing it at, let's say, 210, but you have actives that are below 200, then that's an indicator that maybe there's a trend right now where it's kind of, it may slow down, or the whole coronavirus thing is kicking in a little bit and people are scared, or sellers are more motivated. So you want to price it even below the last sale. So that's one of the things. I'm gonna go over now a sheet. I'm gonna share it with you guys, and it's one of the ones that you got. It should. Let me share it with you now. Okay, you guys see it there now? Hold on a second. You guys there? Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you just fine.
All right, perfect. So
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sharing that. You guys see the what I pulled up, right, with the comps, with the sheet, the appraisal, training, comparable, and property type. So the first thing you got to do is look at what type of property you have. There's different types of properties. You have single families. You have what they call single family in a PUD, which is a planned unit development, which is basically it has an association fee. There's a guard gate, if there's a community pool and things like that, that means you're in a PUD. Common PUD is like Kendall Breeze and things like that. You have townhouses. You have townhouse line block, which is owned like a single family, and then you have townhouse condos, which look the same, but they have different types of ownerships. And then you have your regular condos, like the ones you see downtown, Brickell, and things like that. So this is just a little guideline for you guys to have. So when you have a single family, um, let's say you have the legal description, which you look up at miamidade.gov, and the legal description usually has a name. It could say Heffler Homes. Um, it could be called, anything. And when you have a single family, you have a little bit more leeway on the comps. There's, you pretty much can stay within a mile, is what they say, but you want to follow these guidelines. You want to pick your sales within 20%. And now the MLS is not approving listing. They're not letting the realtor put the living area anymore. They're not letting them put whatever living area they want. They
Why'd they
actually
do
have
that,
to,
Dennis? I've noticed that.
because
People are
because
just
it was
sprucing it up, huh?
there was everybody was using the adjusted area. So what happens? You have a house that has 2,400 square feet adjusted area, which the adjusted area includes the garage, a covered porch, a section of the overhang, and then 1,800 living area. So then you have two listings, and you have one that says in the MLS living area 2,400, and another one which they reported it correctly at 1,800, let's say, because it's the actual under AC living area. And which property looks more appealing to your buyer on Zillow or when you send it to them? The bigger one. Oh my God, this one's 600 square feet bigger. So it's a cheaper price per square foot, which is usually what buyers look at. And now they're misled and it's incorrect information. So it caused a problem even for appraisers and things like that. Sometimes I wouldn't even see a comp because if you have a 2,000 square foot house, I search on the MLS and I'll put between 1,600 and 2,400 square feet. My search criteria, because I don't want to see a house that's 800 square feet. It's not in my market. It's all about finding properties that are comparable and competing to yours. You have a buyer, for example, they're either looking for a 2-bedroom condo or a 1-bedroom condo. They're typically not looking for, they're pretty much typically not okay with finding either or. Usually they have a family and they need a 2-bedroom, or they want a 2-bedroom because they need a home office or something like that. So it's very important to report the correct living area on a property. So now they actually extracted directly from my map, and that's the living area that they use, which helps us out because there's more accurate information. Even myself, I found myself at times using the adjusted area just because I knew that I was competing with other properties, and it was like, look, they're doing it, I might as well do it too, because how am I going to compete with them price per square foot? So you also want to go and pick a property based on the similar condition. Appraisers use different condition ratings on their reports. They can't just put average or updated or something like that. There's 6 different ratings, which is the other sheet that they emailed to you. So, and they're 1 through 6, and we'll go into that after. But if there's one thing that's important for you guys to know when you guys, especially listing agents, is knowing these condition ratings. So that way, when an appraiser goes to a property, you understand, what your property should be worth and what they should rate it at, because that can determine the value of, that could make or break a deal. Sometimes the appraisers get lazy, and I see this time and time again, even friends of mine that send me a report and they put, let's say, for example, a C4 condition rating, which is average. And they just do it across the board because they're lazy. And they do it for every single comp, and they don't even look, if it's, they won't even put into account that you updated the kitchen or the bathrooms or anything. They'll note it in the report, but they won't change the condition rating. So it affects the value dramatically. And then the lot sizes, on a house, you want to keep them within, let's say, 40% at least or something like that. You don't want to ever use a property that has, as a comparable, that has a double the lot size of yours. I see that a lot when I do properties in Coral Gables or Coconut Grove. The property, let's say it doesn't come to value on a sale price, and then my house, the lot size is 8,000 square feet, and then the realtor sending me comps that are 20,000 square foot lots, which are 2 to 3 times bigger than mine. Where in the Grove and in the Gables, the land value is most of the time what brings the value of property the most. A lot there alone, the land alone in Coconut Grove is probably worth, on a standard 7,500 square foot lot, is probably worth $700,000 just in land. So it doesn't make sense for someone to use comps that are, twice your size and double your lot size. So, and it could cause you in listing a property incorrectly and comping it out wrong as well. So for your houses, this is what I would go by. Subdivision, you look at your subdivision and your active and pending listings, especially in today's market. You have to look at those. Your living area, your age, within like 20 years. You know, if you have a 1950s house, doesn't make sense for you to use brand new construction comps. Um, and then single family with a PUD is going to be very similar, but you're going to use, you know, if you're in Bonita Lakes, for example, or can anybody else give me any other uh, neighborhood that they think is a PUD that has an association that are single family detached homes?
Monterrey.
Monterrey, another one. If you have, that's perfect. If you're listing or comping out a property in Monterrey, that's a private community. Doesn't make sense and a lot of times owners do this at times. They see a house in the area and they'll completely disregard every sale in Monterrey and use comps outside because they hear that guideline that says, oh, you can go within a mile. So of course, if there's comps within a mile that are $100,000 more than theirs, they want that value because they're looking at it and they're thinking it's the same. But, you know, the association fees, you know, you have differences in prices. Sometimes you have a preference for a neighborhood because of the HOA fee and the preferred amenities, but sometimes that could work against you as well, that some people don't like the restrictions. So the only way to really value your property is to just keep it within your neighborhood. As long as you have sales that are similar with the guidelines that, you know, that I'm showing you here. And then townhouse, lot and block, and you have a townhouse condo. So these are going to be pretty much the same again. The only thing that I would recommend is you always have to check, and it's very important to know the difference between a townhouse lot and block and a townhouse condo. Does everybody know the difference, or anybody that doesn't know the difference between it? An easy way to tell the difference is I need someone to give me a townhouse, maybe a townhouse where they live or anything. Does anybody have one?
In Kendall Breeze.
Kendall Breeze. Okay, I'm gonna look one up and then I'm gonna share the screen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to miami-dade.gov and do the property search. So whenever you guys look up anything, always go to miami-dade.gov, property search. You can search by address, owner name, subdivision, folio number. Let me go to share. Okay, you guys see the miami-dade.gov?
Yeah.
Okay, can somebody give me the address to a townhouse?
I do 12366 Southwest 122nd Street.
Okay, perfect. So you guys see this one. This is a townhouse and this is a townhouse lot and block. So the best way to know is there's a recorded lot size right here. Says 1,800 square feet. So that's the size of your lot. So you own this just like a house. Same type of ownership rights, except that it is attached. So you have some, you know, wall sharing of walls, common walls. Now, if you price out, when you look at comps for a townhouse, in the MLS, it's going to have condos and townhouses under the same. So sometimes you can mix up and use townhouse condos and lot and block, meaning that you have your own lot and block like a single family house.
Dennis, I have a question.
Yeah.
How could the adjusted or living be larger than the lot size? I've never seen that before.
The two-story property.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's 2 floors. So you probably have like 1,000 on the first, and it's very small. Like if you look at the lot, the front part, even though they have the driveway, that probably doesn't even. That's probably like a common area more than anything. So the lot is probably a little bit larger that you have used to, like a restricted use to the driveway and stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't reflect it, so that's why. So it's probably like 1,000 on the first floor, 1,000 on the other, and then like 300 square feet of front and backyard. Yeah. Um, so the townhouse condos and land block, when you do a search, you could pop up and it'll mix both of them together. I wish there was a way to separate them, but there isn't. So that's why it's important to know the difference, and you can do that really quick when you do your search on the MLS. You could click on like IMAP, and if you see the aerial view, when you click on the IMAP, it'll show you um, the aerial view, and if you see it in individual lot, just like this, like a house, then you know you're in a townhouse lot and block. And a lot of times, the townhouse lot and blocks, um, they're easier to finance. So you need to know this if you're listing it or if you're putting an offer on one. And they typically do sell higher. So I think Mo a while back had a client that had a townhouse in Kendall, and they were adamant on they're not selling for less than 325 or 350. And we looked at the comps in their neighborhood, because the first thing you want to do is always narrow it down. Don't start by doing a mouse search. You want to start off by doing a search in your neighborhood. So if this neighborhood's called Kendall Breeze, you want to search for all the townhouses in Kendall Breeze. You could put like closed sales, townhouse, and then you could do the pick your county date when you do the MLS, and then go to a project name or subdivision name and put Kendall Breeze, and then you pull up all the comps in that neighborhood in Kendall Breeze. Because if you have 20 sales in Kendall Breeze, there's no reason to go outside and to look at 50 comps in other competing neighborhoods when you have 20 in Kendall Breeze, or you have 10 to pick one, which are the same developer, same amenities, same HOA fees, same ownership rights. So you want to start small instead of driving yourself crazy and looking at 50 or 100 different comps within a mile in different neighborhoods, and it's not time. It's not as accurate, and it's not as efficient time wise. So this one, obviously, and most of the time, the lot and blocks, like I said, sell for more because they're easier to finance as well. You could come in with a minimum FHA or 5% down, and there's no, you don't have to check the reserves or the budget or anything.
Do you want to stay within the same model also, or it doesn't, I don't matter?
You don't have to, as long as, the name of the game is picking the most similar sale. So even when I do if you do a rebuttal, like if a property didn't reach value or something like that, I just did one for Carlos, for example, and all I did was I was able to find comps that were more similar. If you're able to find something more similar than what the appraiser used, and in a nearby neighborhood or in your same neighborhood, then you can win that rebuttal. A lot of people say, oh, the appraiser doesn't want to. The thing is that you have to just provide, if you send in comps that are more similar than the ones they selected, then you have a good chance of getting your price adjusted up. So yeah, if you have, doesn't have to be the same exact model. Like if one's 1,000 square feet and the other one's 1,020, doesn't matter, because the main thing is just having it within a couple hundred square feet and the same bedroom count or similar bedroom count. But the more similar ones are better. If this one's a 4-bedroom, right? If you were to use all 3 bedrooms and they provide comps that are 4 bedrooms, which ones are better? And then a townhouse condo, the best way you could tell as well is by the aerial view. It's gonna pop up as the whole project. Does anybody live or can tell me a townhouse condo that they know off the top of their head, or the address to one, or anything?
8255 Northwest 6th Terrace.
Does it have a unit number or no?
224.
Let's see. 8255 Southwest 6th Terrace.
No, Northwest.
Okay. And you said 225?
224.
Okay, Ibelis. Hi, Ibelis. We miss you at the office.
I'm here.
So this one, for example, you see how it doesn't pop up individually? It doesn't show your specific parcel or lot. It's because you don't own a specific lot. You own a townhouse condo. Even though townhouse condos, you wouldn't be able to tell unless you did this, because you go to the property, they have a front yard, they own a backyard, they have the right to use it. It's private a lot of times, and everything is identical except the ownership rights. For zoning purposes, a lot of times it's cheaper for the developer to build it as a townhouse condo, or whatever the land was zoned that allowed them to do one or the other. So this, if you see yourself pulling it up on the Miami-Dade.gov, and you see here lot size, it says 0 because they don't own the, the the land per se. And you know, that's just the quickest way to do it. And again, you'll do comps within the subdivision here, which says Miravilla condo. You're gonna search in here first. Most of the time, you're gonna have sales in here. If you don't, then you can go outside for comps to another competing neighborhood. But you want to start within your subdivision. It makes your life easier. It's going to be more accurate, and you're going to get a more accurate number. The, you know, everybody I'm sure is pretty familiar with the Miami-Dade.gov. If not, you have your folio number, you have your subdivision name, your address, owner name, physical characteristics. So you always want to go by the living area when valuing a property. And then this is the number that I was telling you. This is that you want to be within 20%. So what you would do is simple. Just do the calculation. You put 1176 minus 20%. It will give you, let's say, 900 something square feet. And then you do 1176 plus 20%, and you're gonna get, let's say, 1300 something. So when you do your comp search on the MLS, in this case, you would do your search, and you would put in the square footage part, you would put that criteria, and you would put Miravilla condo or Miravillas in the subdivision name section, and that way it'll tell you the actives, it'll tell you everything that's going on. If you want, I'll do that really quick just to give you guys an idea. You guys want that?
Yes, please.
All right, check it out.
Yes, please.
All right, look. So you guys see the MLS here?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna put single family search criteria right here. I'm gonna put active. I'm gonna put active with contract, close sales, and I'm gonna put pending. In default, it puts 180, but I'm gonna put 365. You can search for comps and go back up to a year. Obviously, the more recent ones are gonna be the best indicator of current market value. Market's always changing, so you know you want to stay within. You want to try to stay within 6 months. In this case, I want to see everything that's going on in the last year, because the sale is good for a year. So property type, I'm gonna put condo, because this is see how it has it bulked together: condo, co-op, via, townhouse. I'm gonna put my county, and I'm gonna put subdivision name, which was the name of hers was Miravillas, and I'm gonna see if I get any results here. So I got 7 matches. Now I'm gonna put results, and you have within her project, you have 1 active listing. It's a 2 1.5, 914 square feet, and you have about 6 closed sales for 2 bedrooms. Now hers is the biggest one in there. Hers is the 3 bedroom, and it's about 20 square feet, 1176. So for in this case, is one of those cases where you would go outside and find comps because you don't have any recent 3 bedrooms that have closed. So in this case, it's not fair for you to use all the 2 bedrooms that are smaller, inferior in square footage, functional utility. So in this case, you would go outside and do like a mile radius, let's say, but which you can do by just going to map and you do the draw radius and you would just draw it out and go, you can go up to a mile, let's say. Right? And you would search for the comps like that. You would put your 3 bedrooms criteria. You would put your square footage range that I told you. The only thing you got to be aware of is that there's the townhouses that you want to pick, the townhouses that are condos as well. But this gives you the best idea. See, so if you had a 2 bedroom, there would be no reason to go anywhere else, and you could have comped this out in whatever time it took me, 5 minutes between looking up the subject really quick on Miami-Dade and going here. You would have had, if it was a 2 bedroom that she had, you would have had 6 comps to pick from. So why would you go outside? And guaranteed, the 185 one is probably the original or older model. Not older model, sorry, older. It's an older condition, hasn't been updated. Whereas if you go to, see here, there's a range 185 to 230. If you go to the 230, this one is probably updated or remodeled. Porcelain tile, updated bathrooms, updated kitchen. Looks like a French, an impact rear door. You can tell that this one's been remodeled or updated. And it'll go, it'll be the same for these. These are updated. So it actually shows you that the difference between a standard one, or one that hasn't been updated here, and a remodeled one is, let me see, about $45,000. So if you're a homeowner too, or an investor, or if your client has, a unit that's original like this one, and they're not happy with that 185 or 190 number, you can tell them, hey, look, then remodel it. If you make it, when they ask me what type of renovations do I do, what type of updates, I don't make things up. I tell them, hey, look, let's go to the sales. I would mirror these sales that sold high, because sometimes you don't have to put quartz if the area doesn't call for it, or you put granite. So I tell them, I don't make up things, and I don't tell them, hey, look, you have to put custom this, custom that. I tell them, look, this is what got them 230. They had granite. If you can get it for the same price as quartz, probably nicer. Okay, you can do it. But if not, this is what an updated unit sold for. This is what an updated unit sold for. If you make it look something like this or nicer, then you're gonna get that top dollar for the property. Now maybe you'll get the listing if they remodel it and put it back on the market in a few months. Or as a seller, if you own the property, you would know, you can make it probably costs you 25 grand to update it, but you'll get another extra 20 in profit. So let's go over. Any questions about that? No questions, Ibelis?
No.
All right. Let's go over really quick now so now I'm going to share the other email that I sent. The one that says exhibits and the condition rating. Let me pull it up right now. All right, do you guys have that? You guys see that there?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So this is probably the most important thing you guys got to know. A lot of you are already familiar with it, or do you guys know what I'm showing you here or no? Hector, have I gone over this with you or no?
No.
I haven't seen it before.
All right, good. Some of the agents at the office have, so some of them haven't. Um, so this is what, and I'm gonna show you. The last thing I'm gonna do is show you an actual appraisal report, which was George's idea, which is good. So that way you guys can see what an appraiser has to work with and what they're gonna have to disclose in the report. So you have the appraiser has to categorize your property and has to rate it in the report. And this rating is important because they actually keep track of all this for about 5 years, the lenders and things like that. And they compare it to what other appraisers put and things like that. So it's important for them to be accurate, and it's important for you to get the most value on your property. So the ratings are from 1, it's C for condition, and then it has a 1 through 6. Okay, so C1 is the easiest, and they're gonna rate your property a C1 condition if it's a completely remodeled, if it's a brand new construction. So the only time they'll put your rating as a C1 is if it's a brand new construction, never been occupied, never been lived in, 100% new. So that's the only time they put C1 condition rating for a property. So that one's pretty simple. You could read, and it has a little paragraph description after, which that's why I emailed it to you guys so you guys can read it over. It's a little bit blurry because I had to screenshot it. So, and then we have C2 conditions. So this one is the one that the appraisers have the most trouble with. So C2 condition can be two things. It could be either a house that was recently built, not, it's been occupied, but it could be a house that you sold from Lennar, new construction a year ago. Then it would drop from that C1 to C2 because it's already been occupied for about a year, or more. Or let's say 1 to 5 to 10 years, even 1 to 8 years, let's say, should be called a C2 condition, which is no deferred maintenance, no physical depreciation, requires no repairs. It's a fairly new or recently built house. It could also be, though, house that was a fix and flip that was purchased and completely rehabilitated and gutted. So this is what you want. If you work for an investor and they fix up properties and they completely gut them, you want to make sure you tell the appraiser, hey, look, this property, they did everything brand new. This is a C2 condition rating. That way they know that you're aware of this and they know that they can't get away with, because a lot of times it's a red flag when they put on a property that's from the 50s. If they put C2 condition, it's a red flag. The lenders need an explanation why. But again, they can get lazy, or maybe they're just not aware of it. They haven't read the guidelines and they just think that this refers to properties that were, recently built or, 2, 3, 5 years ago. So this can really make or break a deal for you, because if they to name it C2, it has to have everything redone except for maybe one item. So, but everything else has to be good. The kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, roof, electrical, everything except maybe one item could have been, has to have been remodeled. And then this is the one that a lot of times the appraisers try to get away with and not calling it a C2, they put a C3, which C3 is a property that has been well maintained. And most houses are C3 or a C4, which is C3 is going to be updated kitchen, updated bathrooms, but not a full renovation. Okay, so it has partial updates. It's been well kept. It has maybe the windows, but maybe the roof is older, like a mixture of updates, maybe like a 50-60% updated home. And then the C4 is going to be your just an average home, been well kept, but no updates, or hasn't been updated in the last, let's say, 20 years. Okay, so it's still it's has some minor deferred maintenance, normal wear and tear, um, and it's obviously inferior than a C3, which is like updated. And in the report, it specifically asks you to disclose if the kitchen and the bathrooms were updated. So if the kitchen and bathrooms on your house were updated, then it should be called a C3 condition at least. Okay, and you want them to be as accurate with this as possible. So that way, if they're using a comp that is inferior to yours in condition, you can get that extra value. They can adjust. They typically adjust 5 to 10% for the condition. So it could be an extra $30,000 just because you've disclosed to them, hey, look, my house is a C3 or a C2, and they disclosed all the renovations. Not only disclosed them, but that they rated it correctly, because then it forces them to rate the comps accurately as well. And they'll adjust.
Dennis, I have a question, Dennis.
Yeah.
What is the success rate on getting a rebuttal over an overturn or a higher valuation on a rebuttal?
It really depends, because sometimes they ask me and I see it and I go, hey, look, their value is right. If you had, it depends really. I would really say probably success rate 10%, 20%, because I wouldn't even do it if I didn't think it was worth it. If I didn't find like a little loophole in some way or something that makes sense. The other day I had one with Carlos Tejeda had an appraisal done on a property in, what was it, Coral Gables. And he had a 1-bedroom, and I think they priced it like at 175 or something, and he had suggested he thought it was higher. So I looked at it, and he said, look, I don't know if it's worth wasting my time. I know they never want to change their value. And I said, well, let me look at it. Let me see if it makes sense. And I looked at it, and it was in Coral Gables. And the way you know what city he was right on the border of Coral Gables. Literally across the street, it was city of Miami. So there was only one sale in Coral Gables, which is the one the appraiser used for 165. And then outside, he did a half a mile or a mile radius, and then he pulled up comps in city of Miami. So that was okay, let me look now. So then I did, and again, he wasn't even aware of this, because the mailing address on the report shows Coral Gables for the comps. But when you pull them up on miamidade.gov, the first two numbers of the folio were 01, which indicates city of Miami. So I did a search in Coral Gables, and I found 2 comps that were higher. And then we wrote a paragraph, we wrote a little something explaining that the comps he used were inferior because of location, should have required a location adjustment, because who's going to argue that city of Miami is equal to Coral Gables? In that little area where you're like borderline Little Havana, Coral Gables. Coral Gables pays higher taxes. It's a more preferred neighborhood. It pays more in taxes. So we sent it in, and we sent in comps that were 2.5 miles away from the property, but within Coral Gables, because there's a notion that says that you have to stay within a mile. There's communities that within a complex, it's a 2-3 mile complex. So there's really no, there's a Fannie Mae guideline that tells appraisers, hey, you should stay within a mile, but USPAP, which is what the appraisal law is, doesn't tell you that you have to stay within a mile. What it says is find comps that are the most similar in your neighborhood, and then if there's nothing similar in your neighborhood, you go to a competing neighborhood. So in this case, we did that, and we found comps that were in Coral Gables. The only ones that were in Coral Gables were 2.5 miles away. So we did like a match paired sales analysis showing that Coral Gables sells for higher. The guy adjusted the price, and they gave it like 10, 15 grand more because of just knowing those little things and knowing how to read the report, knowing how to look up the city that the comps were actually in. Um, so you do have times that you do it. I just did it on a report that we had done. Um, you know, a completely remodeled property, and we actually gave it like 15 grand more. So it does happen, but I would say the success rate is 10 to 20% only because a lot of times the comps that they send me aren't good comps. You know, so I look at them and I dismiss them and I go, hey, mines are better than those. But if they send me something that I overlooked or that I didn't find for whatever reason, then I would use them and you know, adjust the value. And you guys can also give comps to appraisers. So you guys can pull up comps, do your research, and you can give them comps. There's nothing that says that they cannot take those comps or anything. You just gotta tell them, hey, look, I did a little bit of research. Here's some comps. Obviously, you use whatever you want, but I just wanted to make sure that you didn't overlook anything. And most of the time, they're gonna take them. I always did. Um, and then, you know, C5 and C6 ratings. Our C5 is probably like an REO property, something that has deferred maintenance, could need some significant repairs. Typically like an REO property, and then a C6 property is a property that's uninhabitable, basically like completely gut job, not livable at all, things like that. So read these over, and we can discuss them later, and we can actually look at some properties. You guys should look at some properties on Zillow and things like that, and kind of see where you would rate them, so you can see, you know, practice. You guys can also shoot me an email with a property or maybe one of your listings, and you know, tell me, hey, look, I think my property is this condition rating. What would you rate it? So I can tell you and give you input on that and help you out as well. So let's go over, and now I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share now an actual report. Okay, you guys see the report now, right, guys? All right. So
This is where you
an
kill
actual,
people's deals, right, Dennis?
not lately, man. Not. I try not to, man, especially lifestyle ones. So this is just this is the first. This one's 27 pages. This is a disclosure in the report. Tells you what lender, the person's name. This was a regular refinance by a bank. Makes us disclose if we've done any prior services, things like that. This is all disclosures, signature. The report has, so here, this is the first actual page of the report. So if you guys see here, it has tabs right here to the left. That's indicating what this, it's all in sections. So this is the first section that you report information on. The first section is the subject. So you're gonna go over, it's just basically disclosing the property address, the city, borrower, the legal description didn't fit here, so it's in the addendum. The folio number, which you guys already know, the folio number is basically like the person's social security number for a house. And this is what I was telling you guys. The first two numbers of the folio are gonna be the city that it's in. So this one's 30, which is, it corresponds to unincorporated Miami. And you guys can Google, you guys should write it down to search list of municipality codes in Miami-Dade County. There's about 36 of them. You know, Miami Beach. You guys should have those. That way you guys know right away what city you're in, because sometimes you're at the border between one city and another. Another good tool is Google. And if you Google Coral Gables, if you Google Pinecrest, I'll show you guys after this. Um, it really shows you the boundaries of neighborhoods, because a lot of times we think, oh, Coral Gables is, let's say, by UM or by Bird Road at 67th, but Coral Gables runs from 8th Street all the way to the bay. So this is, these are all little things, so you become more of an expert in your area. Pinecrest as well, and it's the best thing to do is really just you Google it, and I'll show you guys real quick because Google's really accurate with it. So this is the subject. It disclosed lender, any prior sales history, contract section. This is this is not a purchase, so there's nothing to be filled out here. But if there was, they would have to disclose the contract price, date, etc. So this is the market condition in the neighborhood. Typical suburban, stable. This is the housing trend right here. This shows you. You guys see when I move around the mouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Can I ask you something really quickly that
Yeah,
you
of
were
course.
just saying? What about like if with Pinecrest, for example, like US 1, some parts of it, like west of US 1, it's still using 33156 as a zip code,
Yeah.
but it's not in Pinecrest.
Yeah, exactly. So that, like, you wouldn't use a comp because you have an issue with the mailing addresses and zip codes. Like I live in 33156, but it's it's right on the other side of US 1. So I'm not in
West,
Pinecrest. Yeah, I'm
right.
not in West. Sorry. So I'm not in Pinecrest. So I have a townhouse. You wouldn't be able to get comps from Pinecrest because you have the issue with the municipality. So that supersedes everything. Um, if you're in Pinecrest, for example, that's municipality code 20. Your first two numbers of your folio are going to start with 20.
And
When
that
you do your
supersedes.
search, when you do your search on the MLS, I would, even if you do a mile radius or if you draw the map out in a section, I would put municipality 20. So that way you don't even waste time looking at comps in unincorporated Miami, regardless of the zip code. The municipality is more accurate than the zip code because mailing addresses and municipalities are different. The zip codes are different. So the municipality is really what tells you what city you're in.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, even Coconut Grove, you have one side of US 1 and north of US 1. You wouldn't use it. It's a completely different neighborhood. So here it tells you the boundaries that I picked for the neighborhood high low, land use. Um, The next is the site section, which it's just details about the lot size, the lot dimensions, the zoning, if it's in a flood zone, things like that. And then this is the improvement section, which is actually specific to your subject property, your home. If it's your listing or if you're representing the buyer. So you see it has here general description, 1 unit. This is a single family home, 1 story. It's a detached home, ranch style home. Age of the house is 1971. Effective age is based on updates, how much I think it's depreciated. So it looks like a younger home because of the updates they've done to it. Concrete slab, and these are just more. You guys want to read this over to make sure that the things are accurate. So like CBS, average shingle, what type of windows, things like that. Here are the appliances, additional features. The appliances are upgraded here. And then this is the section that you guys really want to focus on because this is the condition rating. You see where it says C3 there? That's what I rated this property. And then it actually asks you specifically to put kitchen and bathrooms updated. If they were updated, you have to put yes or no. And you have to put the time frame that they were updated. So this one, kitchen updated 6 to 10 years ago, bathrooms updated 1 to 5 years ago. So like I said, if you have a house that has been updated, has an updated kitchen or bathroom, you're probably going to be in a C3 condition rating. But I see a lot of times that they rate it as a C4. Um, and in this case, for example, it probably made like a $20,000 to $30,000 difference in the valuation of his house because he bought it as a C4 in 2018, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So he did a roof, he updated the bathroom. So even though he didn't update the kitchen recently, but because he did the roof and the bathrooms, now he has as a whole a more updated home, which made me, give him a C3 condition rating, and it took him to the next notch. And the value was probably 290 to 300 for an average house, where it got him up to the 330. Um, so the next page is the actual um, sales comparison approach. So this is where you pick the comps, and the first column has the subject, has the property that we're appraising. Could be your listing, again, it could be property that you're representing that you sold. Um, it has typical location, lot size, all these items dragged from the other field, age. So this is what you're going to want to look at, the condition, to make sure that they reported the right condition here. And you're going to want to look at that for the comps as well. So like C3, I used another C3 and another C3. If I'm doing a rebuttal on a report, first thing I do is I check my condition rating. I see if it's accurate. And if not, then I write that in a rebuttal. Subject had updated kitchen, roof, bathroom, blah, blah. They rated as a C4. I don't think that that's accurate based on the definition of a C3. And you copy and paste the definition of a C3. And an underwriter will determine which one's more accurate, or put pressure on the appraiser, like, hey, why didn't you give this guy value for this? Most lenders want to close deals. So if you're right, they're going to side with you. Worst case scenario, like in Hector's case, I told him, I felt like the guy lowballed the appraisal. So I told him that, look, have them do a second opinion. I feel like this guy went with the lowest end of the market. Is, see if your seller would pay $400 for another, $450 for an appraisal, that the bank reorder another one that you don't agree with it. Maybe you give them another 10 grand. It's worth it. Put in $400 to get an extra 5, 10 grand. An appraiser can easily do that if you're in the right, or more. So check your subject, the condition rating of yours at this point. So I would pull up here the addresses to the comparables. This is comparable sale 1, comparable sale 2, comparable sale 3. It has the MLS number right here. So, and it has the address, whichever one's easier for you. And I looked those up on the MLS, and I check how accurate they are. I look at the condition rating. I look at the square footage. They have to use the living area from Miami-Dade or IMAP. And if you see here, it says gross living area. So a lot of times they want us to use, or a homeowner, hey, my house is the adjusted square foot is 2,400. They're going to use the living area. We cannot use the adjusted area. So you see here, 1567 was the living area. So you want to check the living area for accuracy, bedroom, bathroom count, and the condition. So this house, I would look it up and I'll see, hey, let me see if it's actually a C3 property, if it's updated. Sometimes I look it up for some of the rebuttals that you guys send me, and then I see that some of the properties have, has no updates, and the guy just across the board put C3 or C4 for everything. And that's not fair to your sellers or to your buyers, for them to get undervalue. They can easily undervalue it that way. So that's how I do it. Again, look up the address of the MLS and go to the MLS and look up the comps for and look at the pictures of the MLS. See, in this case, I gave it C3, and this is where they adjust for things that are for items of difference. C4, I gave this property $20,000 of an adjustment for not being as remodeled or updated as my property. Square footage as well. Mine is 1604, and this one is 1440. So that accounted to a almost $14,000 adjustment. What I do for condition, like I told you, they're gonna adjust 5 to 10% most of the time, and for square footage adjustments, they're gonna do about a third to half of whatever the total is for the comp. So let's say like this one's 208. This was probably an adjustment of about 60 to $80 per square foot. Okay, and then here again, see it has additional amenities, pool. If it has a storage, a detached CBS storage or something like that, you can give a value there. Any questions about this? Hector, any questions?
How do you choose how much to adjust?
Honestly, it's
The amount of the adjustment.
no. Some things are sometimes they do like it. You do a match pair sales analysis. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do. Let's say you're in Kendall Breeze and you have a townhouse. I don't know if there's a lake there, but for example, if it had a lake, you find one comp with a lake, one that doesn't have a lake, and the difference is what someone's willing to pay for the lake.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay.
in a perfect world, that's how you would do it. The ones I'm telling you right now are pretty customary because of my appraiser peers. Let's say they're gonna, I keep in contact with 5, 6 guys, and I talk to them as well. I get an average, and the ones I'm telling you is pretty much what they're all adjusting it at. So sometimes we use data from like prior reports and stuff like that. So on like for square footage, for example, depending the area and the depreciation of the home, if it's a newer home or older home, they're gonna adjust of the total. Like this number right here is the total square footage, which you get that in the MLS too. It gives you the price, the overall price per square foot, right? You're gonna adjust about a third to half of that number. So half of this would be $104 a square foot. A third would be around $60 to $70 a square foot. Okay, this is an older home, so you have mostly probably land value. So just remember, if you have a property that sold for like this one, 300, the overall price per square foot is this. If you have a comp that's smaller, 400 square feet smaller, the number is going to be about 1 to 2/3 of that number. Okay, for condition, about 5 to 10% of the sale price. So like here, you see this price is 300,000. It's 5 to 10%. So here I went about 7%, right in between. Probably because the house had some updates, but not, wasn't that bad. So it really depends. So you can, if you have a $300,000 house, you can easily save between $15,000 to $30,000 for the difference in condition. Okay. A garage is going to be $8,000. A pool is going to be $20,000 to $30,000, something like that.
Yeah, Dennis, the only thing I would add is when we spoke to Academy Mortgage regarding the rebuttal of that appraisal, they sometimes will go back to the appraiser that prepared the report, or they have a board inside within their office that reviews it and makes the adjustment in the office. They don't even go back to the appraiser.
So but they check it for quality assurance or something like that internally first?
Yeah, so what they do is they release the appraisal. Obviously we weren't happy with it. And then they said, okay, well, tell us why. Tell us why you think it's worth more. And I guess it depends on the numbers, as to how much the difference is between where we were. The difference for us was $20,000.
Yeah.
And I was hoping they'd come up at least 10, and then we split the baby on the other side between seller and buyer.
Yeah.
We ended up splitting it without even going that far, but they have an internal panel that will review the rebuttal, and then they'll make a decision accordingly as to making the adjustment.
Yeah, well, they'll make a decision to see if it escalates to the appraiser, because they can't alter the appraiser's report.
So then what are they talking about then?
What they'll do is they'll probably see, and they'll see, hey, let's see if if we have something here. Let's take a look at it. And if you provide them comps, like a lot of times that property sale was for $435. You start providing comps for $600. They're gonna go, wow, this guy's nuts. This guy, $250,000 more. Now we think that this property sold for $500,000 less than what it is, and they know they have a lot of times an appraiser and staff there, and if they see it's bogus and that there's no merit for it, then they're not even gonna escalate it to the guy. Now, if you provide them something good, they're gonna go, hey, we got something here. We're gonna send it to the appraiser. We're gonna do an appeal, and the lender sends me a note. Hey, the lender has been provided this information that we feel will provide your appraisal with more accuracy and a more credible assignment result. And then the appraiser is gonna look at it and then say, hey, let me see if I do a final reconciliation or something.
We shouldn't say, hey, jerk, let me tell you how you do your job.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, he almost screwed up my deal, man.
Almost, you saved it. But that's really on the report, the main thing. Everything else is going to be pictures, is going to be miscellaneous disclosures and things like that. The last thing I do just want to show you guys though is I'm going to share. She mentioned Pinecrest. Let me share my screen here. Okay, you guys see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you Google, just go to Google and just put Pinecrest, Florida. And you guys will see, you see the map here to the right. You click on this, it will show you the boundaries of Pinecrest. So this is good, so you guys can familiarize yourselves with the municipalities. So like she was asking me, what if you have a house right here and your comps are here? I'd say you can't use it because it's a different city. And you have all of Pinecrest to use. So why, so the appraiser won't use something here. If you're right here, the price difference could be $250,000. So
Dennis, I have a question. So for instance, 33156, which is an area code I'm very familiar with. Mm-hmm. It's not only Pinecrest. This is depicting Pinecrest, right? But right on the other side of US 1, there is an area that's also part of 33156. And a lot of people get confused because they don't understand. They say, well, I'm a 33156 area zip code. And I'm like, great. I'm glad you are, but your house is shit. It's not on the right side of that US 1.
Yeah, I agree. That's what, and that's just an honest mistake because they don't know these things, but you got to know these as an expert. You have to be able to, explain to them why. So if you Google 33156, it includes the section you're saying. It includes.
Exactly.
Like it marks my house is right here.
Right. But it includes the Continental Park area, which you're very close to Continental Park right there.
Yeah, but right here you pay a lot more taxes. It's a preferred neighborhood. You have a police department, its own fire department.
Right. Not only that, a lot of people don't know. I'm going to be giving a class. George and I talked about it, but the coronavirus got involved regarding insurance. The moment you jump over US 1 to the Pinecrest side, you have to have 3 insurance policies, not just one. You have to have flood, you have to have homeowners, and you have to have windstorm. Versus going on the west side of US 1 where you only really need one policy. So talk about that at another time. But yes, a lot of people need to take that into consideration because it's the difference between happen or not making a deal happen. If you're going to be paying $15,000 for insurance versus $7,200 for insurance, as got quoted.
Yeah. Even like neighborhoods like by the West Gables office that you have 57th Avenue and you have a house. And what do people do? They get a Zillow estimate, and Zillow includes everything within a certain, within a quarter mile, or it includes property in Coral Gables, and you're right next door. They look at Zillow. Now their house is worth $680,000, and you got to break the news and explain to them why. Look, this is your municipality. You got to know how to explain this to them because you just took $200,000 from their bank. Is how they see it. And that's why the zip code can be tricky because look at the zip code here, and then you put Pinecrest, and it shows you the actual city. Even
exactly.
Coral Gables, look how Coral Gables runs. It runs even look at this section. So like this section right here is known as what is it, Little Gables or something like that. And it's just a section that the homeowners didn't want to incorporate into Coral Gables. They didn't want to pay the higher taxes. But yet when you do an appraisal there, they want you to include Coral Gables comps. Look, they're right across the street and everything, but you got to use the sales in this pocket, which typically sell for less because of the municipality, because of the city taxes and things like that. And it's not fair for an owner that pays the preferred taxes to be, to not have the benefit. And these homes right here.
There's the West Gables office there.
West Gables is West Gables right over here. Where's it? Burn? It's over here, Coral Terrace.
Nah, man.
Right here, bro.
They gotta update the system.
Coral Terrace, Pabito.
Hey,
but yeah,
why are you
man.
cheating like that, man? Why are you cheating?
Hey, we're making that the municipality. We're putting the flag there.
But yeah, guys. But that's pretty much it. I mean, now I'll take any questions you guys have. I'm
gonna stop the recording here, Dennis.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, man. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody going.